The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
You reached the Benjamin Dixon Show voicemail. Leave your message and we'll respond live on air.
Hi, this is Michael from Orlando, Florida. I'm a longtime listener, just became a patron. I think your show's amazing, really good, progressive stuff, love it. Anyway, I'm calling because I'm really growing frustrated with kind of the whole progressive movement. A little bit about me is I grew up in Utah as a Mormon in a fundamental religion, ultra-conservative. Kind of grew out of that and moved into centrist politics, kind of found Pod Save America, I liked them. And then eventually I stumbled upon guys like you and Sam Cedar, Michael Brooks. Sorry. Really progressive people that I enjoy listening to, but I find myself really frustrated right now because we have the opportunity to really get behind unambiguously the whole impeach Donald Trump and take a step forward in the right direction for our country. But I see a lot of progressives talking about this, and they have all these caveats, and they want to say, yeah, we support impeachment, but this, that, or the other. It's like, yes, you're right, and your values are always right, but now is not the time for kind of like this halfway, should we, shouldn't we join the Democrats in this issue. We need to be unambiguous right there, fighting with all our might, because this is the biggest step we'll have before the election to move this country in the right direction, to get Donald Trump out of there, send a message to Republicans, to depress their base, to really do a huge amount of damage to the whole right wing. So anyway, I just wanted to share, give my thoughts. Again, I love you.
Aww.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Oh, Michael, I love you too, man. Welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Show. This is Phone Call Fridays, where I listen to your voicemails and I respond in real time. And I know, Mike, you're talking about you love the show, and we love you as a patron, and we thank you for your support. I did not intend for the first clip to be that of a patron, but it seems, and it makes sense, that the voicemail, when I put out a request for voicemails, that, you know, some of my biggest supporters would be some of my biggest supporters. But anyway, to answer your question, man, I think your story is very fascinating, right? We come from similar backgrounds, even though Mormonism is clearly different than like the Southern Baptist tradition that I came from. But religious fundamentalism is really kind of similar across the board, and how you moved into centrist politics. And I don't talk about that much about my life, but I did move into centrist styled politics. I would say back around 2000. 2000, when I was 20 years old, I was really just kind of getting into centrist politics. And to me, like, one of the best expressions of what America could be was the movie, The American President. That's how lost I was. I mean, and it's not completely lost entirely, but I'm clearly not that person anymore. And I moved further left. And I appreciate that my show is a part, you know, it's one of the pieces that has moved you to the left. And I'm pausing and I'm trying to think what ultimately moved me to the left. You know, it was the Iraq War, and the endlessness of that war, and the expansion of American empire. That's what ultimately pushed me to the left. And then I realized I was always there because of my faith. Like the portions of my faith that are radical, it lined up. Like it was a question that was in my head my entire life about my religion. And so that's how I got to the left. But to something else that you were talking about that I think is very important. What's going on with the progressive movement, and why are they so timid? And like you said, they give so many caveats to the question of impeachment when this is an enemy. And yes, I would use that word. They are a political enemy, a political rival. A friend of mine, a colleague of mine, called them the most dangerous death cult in America today, possibly in the history of America, where they are sending us and spiraling us down a path towards death and destruction literally. When we consider the environment, when we consider the racial uproar that they benefit from, that Donald Trump just callously stirs up in this country, this party, the way they oppose not only climate change and or any action to apprehend the effects and the ravages of climate change. Not only are they dividing us along racial lines and religious lines and sexuality lines, but they're also simply against anyone having access. No, I'm sorry, access is the wrong word. Getting health care, almost in any fashion other than the exploitative fashion that we currently have. So when you add all those things up, it is reasonable to say that the people that we are opposed, that I consider to be our political rivals and our political enemies, are quite literally a death cult. That being the case, Michael, I'm with you, man. What in the world is wrong with all of these progressive commentators, progressive YouTubers, progressive writers who are so apprehensive about going after this death cult led by Orange Julius himself? What is the problem? What does hinderest thou, as we would say jokingly in the church? We don't talk like that in the church, but we joke like that. What's the problem? What does hinderest thou? Why are you so afraid of going after Donald Trump through impeachment when it is literally the means through which we have been given via the Constitution to rectify the problem of a dictatorial, out of control president? A president who does not recognize checks and balances, the president who uses the power of the bully pulpit to abuse I mean, think about it like this. Remember how utterly disgusted and infuriated conservative America was when Barack Obama loosely alluded to the Supreme Court's decision being wrong. Remember that if you go back a couple of years and you go back to the State of the Union when the President of the United States addressed Citizens United, and the reaction from the judges, who are normally stoic and statuesque, they began to shift in their seats, and everybody, both conservative and liberal on the bench, began to, in their own form of fashion, chastise, or the next day chastise, the President of the United States because he apparently did not respect the checks and balances. Well, now here we are in 2019, and you have Orange Julius, who has used every second of every day to not only attack the different branches of the government, right, to attack Congress, the legitimacy of Congress, but also to attack the courts by packing them with conservative justices, but then also to attack the fourth estate, right, the media. And I mean, remember when Barack Obama simply could not get away with denying Fox News access? Well, Donald Trump has taken on the Washington Post, the New York Times, MSNBC. He even took on Fox News when Fox News didn't give him the flattering coverage that he wanted. And in spite of all of this, in spite of us seeing all of this, we still have progressive commentators who can see that we're literally dealing with the man who aspires to be a dictator. We're dealing with the man who attacks all of the institutions through which we have this society that we are able to give commentary. We see this man doing this all for the sake of his ego, and you're timid about impeaching him? I've already made the case, both as a moral argument and as a responsibility of the duties of people who are sworn to protect the Constitution, both from enemies domestic and foreign. Right? They have a duty to impeach him, but it's also politically expedient. And there's no problem with doing something because it's politically expedient. And I think that the Democrats should exploit this. One, because it's listen, if they are free to do the wrong thing for the wrong reasons, if they're free to do, be Machiavellian for the wrong reasons, why the hell would we not be Machiavellian for the right reasons? Somebody has got to be able to go in there and be as cutthroat for the right reasons as they are for the wrong reasons. Another voicemail coming up next.
Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
And as always, this is a good spot as any to thank our patrons for your support. Thank you for being, thank you seriously for being a supporter. Thank you for what you do. Thank you, because without you, this is not possible. I paused there for a second because, because I'm kind of sort of recording this live. I'm not really, I'm going to back up. Let's see, any patron. No new patrons? What? I know Michael is a patron and relatively new, but I don't have any new patrons from last night. I haven't had a day in the last 3 weeks where I didn't get a new patron. My feelings are hurt, people. Well, thank you for those who are currently patrons. We can't do this without you. And thank you for the future patrons that are going to come. And to all of you who are going to hear the sadness in my voice and say, you know what? Today's the day, Ben. Today's the day. I'm going to go ahead and become a patron because I want to be a part of that uber elite and the uber beautiful. This next voicemail is actually a hoot, and I mean it. Take a listen in.
Hey, Benjamin, this is Mike Stanley in Portland, Oregon. I was calling to thank you. I love watching the 2016 election night replay on YouTube. So you see you and Dave Pacman awkwardly stuttering around and fumbling around looking like buffoons for 6 hours as your personal nightmare unfolds is really entertaining. A lot of times I'll watch it like on a Sunday afternoon like today when I'm cranking out some contracts for work. And, I just wanted to call and say that none of the terrible things that you predicted that would happen under Donald Trump have come true. It's just become this meme that he's a racist, misogynist, a terrible person. But really nothing has changed in my life. My 401k is up a little bit. I suspect if you have stocks, and Pac-Man certainly does, given, his name's David Pac-Man. So he's doing very well. I hope that you're doing well too. And, there's nothing that's been terrible. And like you said, the one thing that you said right on the broadcast is that if Hillary Clinton had won, we'd probably be in a full-blown hot war in Syria right now. Who knows what would be going on in North Korea. And obviously, Donald Trump kept his promise of being an isolationist and not starting any new conflict. So there's actually a positive. So while your kids didn't get the benefit of growing up with the great Ronald Reagan like you did, they may, as it turns out, have something that's just as positive. Anyway, enjoy the work. I look forward to catching you in 2020 and talk to you soon.
You know what I like about this show? It's like, when you talk about politics and you do it as good as I do, it's like people can't, they can't deny you. They could hate you. They could just not like you, but they can't deny your skills, right? And so you get these love-hate calls, these calls where people like your stuff, but they hate your stuff. This guy says he's going to, listen to my stuff and blah, 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 blah. But he says some interesting things here. One, I think it might be a bit of a problem you're dealing with there, guy, that you still go back to a video of our disappointment. Like if you have to, if your position in life, because I'm going into the psychological now. I'm a what's it called? An armchair psychologist. Kind of like a Monday morning coach. But anyway, if the thing that brings you joy is to have to go back to something that happened 3 years ago when somebody else was disappointed 3 years ago, and you keep reliving that moment when they were disappointed 3 years ago, man, that says more about the quality of life that you're leading than anything else. I mean, I don't know what's going on in your life that you actually have to go back to a point when we were disappointed for you to have a moment of joy. But brother, that is deep. Now, leaving the psychoanalytical babble alone, because I'm certainly not qualified. To your point about, I don't recall saying if Hillary Clinton had been elected that we probably would be in a hot war with Syria. I don't believe that I said that, but who knows what's possible. It was 3 years ago. I do believe, however, that the reason for Donald Trump's let me start it like this. I'm extremely happy that we're not in a hot war, in an additional hot war. I'm extremely happy that we are not in a hot war with North Korea. Does Donald Trump get credit with that? I give Donald Trump credit, and I've given him credit in so much as he has not allowed his extreme ignorance and his extreme megalomania lead us into complete destruction. And specifically in North Korea, I credit South Korean President President Moon with being able to play into the things that drive Donald Trump enough to get peace, at least in progress. That's really the context of the conversation for North Korea. Syria's a hot mess. It was a hot mess before. It was a hot mess now, and people are still dying, and we still don't know if we're going to do anything about it or just, the best thing that we could do, which is stay out of it. These are not foreign policy victories for Donald Trump. These are just examples of where Donald Trump didn't allow his stupidity to make the situation worse. And in most cases, he actually almost did make it worse with his missile strike. Now, you're saying we don't have a hot war in Syria, but we did strike Syria. And that was one of his first moves. And then with all of his bellicose language towards North Korea, we managed to make it out of those two conflicts without getting hot. But to your point, I think your point is that something good can come out of Donald Trump's administration. And I think what it is the realization. I think what will come out of Donald Trump's administration ultimately is the realization of how delicate democracy is. And how if we are not careful, we can be the arbiters of our own destruction through democracy. Man, that was some dope shit. That was a you ever just listen to yourself and be like, damn, that was pretty good. All right, next voicemail.
Hey, Ben, my name's Tyler. I'm calling from Atlanta. Just actually recently moved down here. But anyway, just want to get your thoughts on impeachment. I'm kind of on the fence on which side to take because both sides are making very good arguments. You have Kyle Kalinske on Secular Talk. He's making some pretty good arguments against impeachment. I think he's basically saying, that it might blow up in our face.
Tyler, your voicemail cut off there, but I think I get the sentiment of your question. What do I think? You're on the fence. You listen to Kyle Kalinske, and he's very skeptical of it. But I have to go back to the first caller because the first caller, Michael, he had a great point. I mean, there's literally no reason to be opposed to this process with one slight caveat. And that caveat is that it is executed with precision, because executing this haphazardly means that you will hand Donald Trump a political victory just ahead of 2020. Versus if you manage this with precision, with Machiavellian level precision, you could hand Donald Trump the worst defeat just prior to the 2020 election. Now, that's the only conditionals that I place on this, but they have a moral obligation to impeach Donald Trump. I mean, you got standard fare, centrist style institutionalists. And I'm not talking about like Democratic establishment. I'm talking about people who think the most cherished thing in the world is the institution of the free press. Those type of thinkers, right? They think it's more important for an unbiased press. And so they, you have that group who are concretely saying unequivocally that Donald Trump needs to be impeached for the sanctity of our institutions. And this is factually true, because if we allow him to go unchallenged, then the next person is going to really be worse. Literally, because we have set the precedent. We have set the standard that we are not going to hold the president of the United States accountable because we are fearful and we're afraid of the political ramifications. So we have a moral obligation to do so. And I think as we do anything, we do it with precision and we do it with skill. And I'm very disappointed right now to believe that they are going to do this impeachment on the narrow focus on Ukraine, when there are literally pages and volumes of crimes that can bog this down all the way to election day and have Congress vote on the day before election day and vote Donald Trump and impeach him, hand him his articles of impeachment on the day before election day. Now, in my mind, that's a good strategy, but some other strategists will say, "Hey, no, that's going to give the voters, his supporters, who are happily a part of this death cult, like they're proud to be Republicans, that type of negative incentive will push them to the polls." So I'm sure there's a strategist that's arguing that, and I'm not really sure. I just gave an observation. I'll leave the rest of it to the strategist. Which I fancy myself as one, like I'm a sideline coach. I'm a Monday morning coach, quarterback, sideline quarterback, armchair psychologist, and I am a podcasting political strategist. All right, somebody was calling while I was doing this, so let's see that last voicemail.
Hello, Ben. This is Brianna from Virginia. I'm just calling to ask that, let's say this is just a possibility, that if Bernie's health continues to, having relapse like he did what happened earlier this week, what should be the backup plan for Sanders supporters if he can't move forward into the primary? Should we back Elizabeth Warren, or should we ask Bernie to stay in as long as he can to pull delegates from Biden and votes from Biden to put Warren on top? As you say, Bernie and Joe Biden are stealing votes from each other, or taking votes from each other. So, thank you and have a great day.
I love those questions that force me to put my money where my mouth is, because, if we have to have a backup plan to Bernie is still my number one. Like I have as many issues as I have with Bernie and issues I have with his supporters, and their strategy. Bernie's still my number one pick because like Medicare for all is non-negotiable for me. And that's one of my biggest disappointments with Elizabeth Warren is how she equivocates on Medicare for all. But depending on Bernie Sanders' health and how this plays out, we don't know how it's going to play out. So, Brianna, I'm going to answer your question without reservation, without fear of what people are going to say. I think Bernie should stay in as long as he can, even if he's just on the ballot. Even if he doesn't make another campaign run, another stop for the sake of his health, I think he should stay in on the ballot because they have the organization and because of what you said. He literally is pulling votes away from Joe Biden. I think the worst case scenario is that Joe Biden becomes the nominee. Not only will we lose, but even if we win, then it's a nominal win at best. It's a nominal win where we just repeat the mistakes of the previous administration because Joe Biden doesn't have anything really to offer. That's the cold hard facts. I think Bernie Sanders stays in as long as he can. And if he realizes that he is not going to be able to be the nominee, like he simply does not have the physical ability to be the nominee, then we have to give it to the next best person. And the next best person is Elizabeth Warren. No matter how much you may not think she's a progressive, she is far better than Kamala Harris. She's far better than Julian Castro. She's definitely better than Tulsi Gabbard and Andrew Yang. And she's most certainly 100% better than Joe Biden. So depending on how this plays out, if Bernie can get healthy enough to serve as president of the United States, then get up out the bed, Bernie. I mean, just do it, man, if you can. But if he can't, we can't control those things. These are things that are out of our control. Then the best scenario is for him to stay in as long as he can to continuously pull away from Joe Biden and then give those delegates to Elizabeth Warren and push her over the top to become the nominee. But let's just cross our fingers and hope that this procedure that they say, one doctor said he does at least 20 stents a day. And it's I was funny, just if I could wax a little philosophical before I get off. I was talking with my wife this morning, and there are things in our lives that we do that to other people are mind-blowing. Like we can only dream. Like, can you imagine being so skilled that you're able to perform 20 basically heart surgeries a day? Like, your cardiovascular surgeries a day, like 20. It's just nothing for you. I hope that this is literally as insignificant to Bernie as it is to those doctors who do 20 of them a day. That's my hope. I guess I could say more, but why? It's Friday, man. Get out of here. Y'all go and do something You know, it's a happy hour somewhere. Enjoy your weekend. I'll see you Monday. Leave me some more voicemails over the weekend. Leave me voicemails through the week. Voicemail Fridays is going to be a normal thing. Take care, everybody.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.